I have always used medical grade skincare. I've done routine facials, microneedling, Moxie laser, like none of those options were helping. When I came across Katie,
Was the time investment, the financial investment, the emotional investment, the physical investment, was that all worth it sitting where you are now a year later?
is that even a question, Katie?
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. We have made it to 2026. I don't know if you're as shocked as I am, but hey, we are here. We're starting a new year. This is all going to be our year, right? New year, new me. And we know how much you guys love the client stories that we do whenever we bring on a client of ours where they get to share their story. And I think these are such powerful episodes because it really allows you, the audience, to see, oh, I'm not alone in this. Oh my gosh, that's just like me. That's how I feel. And when you are dealing with acne, especially as an adult, it can feel so isolating because the majority of the people around you aren't dealing with skin issues, or it feels like they aren't dealing with skin issues. So the fact that you get to come on here, listen, be like, oh my gosh, she's an adult just like me. So today we are so excited to be starting the brand new year with one of our lovely clients, Haley, who spent about a year with us, Haley, because you had a bit different of a journey from, well, I don't want to say a bit different, but you've really gone through the gamut. So when you first came to work with us, you did an HTMA testing package in November of 24. Then you're like, I'm going to do the DIY in January. And then in March, you decided to upgrade and enroll in the main Clear Skin solution.
Yep.
So for you, tell me a little bit about like, what were you thinking when you're like, let's do the HTMA? And then you're like, let's try the DIY and then let's upgrade to the CSS.
Yeah, well, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much, Katie and Chris, for having me on this podcast. I have been listening in to your podcast and just all of your content for a couple of years now, and it's been so wonderful to work with you. And I cannot say how grateful I am for both of you and your team's expertise in really helping me on my health journey because it's been so impactful. Yes, it's been about a year now that I had my first HTMA consult. And if it's okay with you, Katie, I kind of just want to take a step back and talk about what my journey was like leading up to my first HTMA consult,
Yes.
because it's been a journey in itself. So my acne journey started all the way back in 2011 when I went on birth control, and I was on it for over a decade. When I came off of the pill in 2019, my period disappeared, and then in 2020, I was actually diagnosed with PCOS after I had some cyst rupture. And so at that point, I was really the patient who visited several doctors for my symptoms. I was just not feeling like myself, and I was feeling a little discouraged because I was never asked about my diet and lifestyle. And at that time, I was actually working in the fitness industry as a personal trainer and as a fitness director. And so I was doing all of the right things. I was eating healthy. I was working out consistently. I was living what most people would consider a healthy lifestyle. And yet I still didn't feel like I was healthy. Like there was something deeper happening. And when I was at that doctor's appointment after being diagnosed with PCOS, I was told that the only solution at that time was either to get back on the pill or take metformin. In addition to that, one of my dreams at that time, or has always been, is to become a mom. And I was single at that time, but it was still something that was on my mind. And so one of my questions to the doctor was, what happens when I am ready to start growing my family? And her response was, we will worry about that when that time comes. And so I left that doctor's appointment just in tears, not knowing what the next step was. And I did go back on the pill because I just didn't really know what my options were at that time. I felt like that was truly the only thing that I could do at that point to alleviate a lot of the pain that I was having from the cysts. I was defeated. I was confused for about another year. And then that's when I started seeing a naturopathic doctor. She actually had me stop the birth control pill. And then she put me on an estrogen patch, spironolactone, and progesterone. Quite honestly, I thought this was great. I was like, oh, there's other options besides having to be on the pill. This is wonderful. I'm looking forward to trying something different and hopefully seeing different results at this point. But even with all of that, like my acne persisted. I started getting more like cystic like breakouts. And I was even on an antibiotic at that point. and I just really started feeling hopeless. During that time, I was seeing dermatologists more than ever because I was having steroid injections for the cysts that were coming up on along my jawline, along my cheek. I have always used medical grade skincare. I've done routine facials, microneedling, moxie laser, like honestly, you name it, I did it. And I even cut out dairy. I had a food sensitivity test. So I took out gluten, I took out peanuts, even though peanut butter was something I absolutely loved so much. It was really hard, but I was just willing to do whatever it took to not only clear my skin, but finally feel like me again. None of those options were helping. And so when I came across Katie, your content and your page, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to take another try. I'm going to try something different that I've never tried before. And that's when I chose to do the HTMA consults, or the HTMA. And then I had the consult back in last January, so a year from now. And that changed everything for me. It was finally the moment when someone started looking deeper. It was the moment that I realized that the symptoms that I was experiencing were hidden imbalances, and it was almost overwhelming with everything that was like from like leaving that consult. But at the same time, you know what I saw in that moment was opportunity. I saw opportunity because it was the first time where it was like, I haven't looked at any of this. I haven't uncovered any of this part of my journey. And I just felt really excited. And so I love that this is the beginning of the year, because when I think about last year and where I was on my vision board for the year, I actually wrote, I healed, and her biggest goal is calmness right now. And so that really just set the tone for the rest of the year. And I am so thankful it brought me to you all and to your guidance and coaching.
I love everything about this. I love that you had that on your vision board because, like, I'm a big vision board. I do mine every year. And I love that you put that on there and you achieved that goal. And here you are a year later being like, I did it.
Also appreciating that you gave yourself a year, right?
Mhm.
That's a big kicker. When we do goals, a lot of us just try and get through our day. We're like, "Oh, okay." And there's no reward in anything because we just accomplished basic everyday needs, right? I often ask people inside the Clear Skin Solution, how many minutes, hours, or what's a time that you do self-care? And I will tell you, I will nail it. When you first come into the Clear Skin Solution, I guarantee you it's 15 minutes or less, right? And then, going through the program, it becomes a lot more than 15 minutes because we realize we can. It's no different than the vision board, right? Once we start applying it, it becomes habitual. Then we're like, oh my gosh, what is this glory? What is this time not talking to anyone? And one other fact I did want to bring up is, which kind of pains me with the Western medical system, is you're young and the option was metformin. The body, how many times do I have to say to this? The body will show up for the body always. The body is never not trying to show up. We have to give it the path. We have to give it the right angles. We have to give it the right lens, right? And I'm pretty sure when you came in, we didn't just all of a sudden, here's all your therapeutic protocols and here's 1,500 supplements and here's it. It's like, okay, whoa, what's going on? Hold, pause, slow entry, right? So can you kind of talk about you alluded to like when you were working with the different practitioners, the approaches and doing different things and then coming in, what was the polar opposites between what you were doing and then kind of how people come in? Because that's one of the biggest thing clients say to us. I thought I was going to come in and I thought I was doing everything. And I thought, and let's go, let's go. And then I realized. So what was your I realized moment?
Well, I think when I compare my experiences with Western medicine and with the experience that I had here with your practice, it was prior was Band-Aid solutions. Like, even there was a moment that I went to the doctor during this journey and I had gained weight and I felt extremely constipated. I knew my digestion was off. And I was told, okay, take Miralax and just eat less. And having a fitness background, I knew eating less wasn't wasn't the miracle solution at that time. I let her know. I said, "Well, hey, I eat about 1,800 to 2,000 calories. What would you recommend?" And she said, "Oh, wow, you need to eat way less than that." And Chris, I'm not sure if you remember, but a couple months ago, like while I was in the program, you actually told me to eat more. And it's so contradicting, right? And so when I stepped into this program, the very first protocol that I went on was an anti-inflammatory diet, and I truly felt like I was already eating anti-inflammatory. And so for me, that was like, "Oh, I Kelly, I think I can go ahead and go to the next protocol because I'm already doing these things." But I'm so glad she said, "No, we need to take 8 weeks to really focus on anti-inflammatory," because there were a lot of things that I actually wasn't doing. And I was, consuming foods that had more of those fillers or additives, even something as, as small as the water droplets. Like, that had extra fillers in it that I could take out, or switching over to, like, a mineral-rich salt is something I did early on, and room temperature water versus ice cold water. That was something that I could make a change and really set the foundation for then going and moving into the gut protocol that I did next.
This is great. Like, I am like, I don't even think Chris and I need to be here. Haley could just share her journey, start to finish. It's so like, I really love listening to these client stories because while everybody comes in for acne, right? You would think, okay, everyone's coming in for acne. They're all going to do the same thing and they're all going to have the same result when it's not like that. Like, everybody's individual journey is so different based on what's happening in their body because while the symptom of acne is the same, the imbalances are very different. So, Haley, when you got that first HTMA done and you said that no one had ever talked to you about this before. Like, these are things you had never thought you uncovered, but you had truly thought that, oh my gosh, I had tried everything.
Mhm. After my first HTMA consult, the imbalances were due to like chronic stress. So it was, hey, I need to calm my nervous system. And what practices can I add into my routine? I had low stomach acid. I wasn't absorbing fats very well. And so those were just things that I never even knew were a possible root cause of the not only the acne but some of these other things that I was experiencing. Like, I had fatigue, I had like constant bloating, I had gained weight even though I was working out regularly and eating really clean. So it was just like all of these other symptoms that are often considered normal, but it's not normal, they're just common.
In your first HTMA, quote unquote, you had PCOS too.
I did.
So I could see where that was. It's not that we diagnose. What I'm saying is we look for minerals. So chromium was elevated, vanadium was elevated, and you weren't balancing your protein and or your fats. So those are going to be all the hormones. So if that's the case, then how is the body going to balance, period, right? And I always say to people, because you have somebody says I have PCOS and you have a cyst erupt, that doesn't mean that it's not there. It's there. It's happening. But is that truly what's happening? Because the first thing we want to do is then put people on estrogen, but estrogen has a role in PCOS, and sometimes it's actually elevated estrogen that goes misdiagnosed as PCOS. And it's a component, like you said. Why do you think we got you in right off the bat saying, okay, we're going to start looking for ways for you to balance your vitality in not stress management as per se as again, more words Chris doesn't like. I know I need a dictionary of the words that I don't really like. However, what about liberating the stress pathways, because stress is inevitable. So instead of trying to manage stress, that's a coping mechanism. I'd rather people liberate it. Okay, I'm having it. What do I need to do when I'm having it? Right? So that was pretty interesting just on those pathways. But yeah, 110%. And you fatigue, I mean, your cobalt was through the roof. That B12 is very common. So cobalt is the mineral in cobalamin, which is B12, not necessarily just iron like everybody thinks. And B12, if we don't have that, how are we kicking off all our hormones and our methylation? So it's really interesting. This is why I'm pretty sure I'm married to the hair trace, because I just love them so dearly, because you look at the minerals in the body and we can't see those otherwise. So I was just love that you are going forward and you're like, mm. And when I talked to you about eating more, I opened up the secondary because you did a second test. So some people do and some people don't. You had the test and you're like, I'm going to do it. And right off the bat, you started with elevated calcium and magnesium. So more acidic like, processed like foods. That would have been the common, even though you were doing all the things, you were selecting the better than processed foods, right? But still kind of altering the terrain. Fast forward, I opened it up. We were on a call. Was it like the Wednesday calls? Is that what I said it to you, or did I
Yes.
actually?
Yeah.
Yes. And you asked me a question. So every other week, I host basically ask me whatever you want or a mindset. And Haley said something, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, hold on, let's open the HTMA. Can I share? She says yes, and I'm like, girl, you need to
Mhm.
eat more right off the bat. I don't think there was any passing questions other than that. No.
That sums it up.
Here's what happens. When we come in and we start eating and we finite the way we eat, we get down to selected sometimes foods. We are only to protocol and then we get out of protocols. And you probably saw that. That's a little bit different of what we do. We go into a protocol, get out of a protocol. But sometimes when we get the gains of the skin winning, we're like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Did you ever get that? Where you're like, oh no, I won't eat that just in case.
Yes, I have. I think early on, I did have a lot more food fear. I had food fear going into this program. Again, going back to the food sensitivity test because it was something that I could control. Like, I was someone that I was willing to do whatever it took, but, like, if it was in my control, I was gonna do it. So cutting out some of those foods felt like something, "Hey, I can do this." But throughout the protocols, I actually experienced more food freedom and less anxiety around the food. And as I went through like different protocols, so I went through the anti-inflammatory, and then Callie had me transition into a low glycemic diet and being able to just like try new foods. Something that I've never, had tried before. It was like I looked at this list and I saw, okay, what are my options? What's something new that
Mm.
I can try? What benefits will it give me? And this wasn't something like right off the bat. This is something I really did struggle with. And going into this program as well, I was one that also counted macros to a T. I had counted macros for years, really just, wanting to like hit my protein goals and not go over all my carb intake. And that was honestly part of just like living in the fitness industry for several years. And I'm so thankful that Callie helped me make that switch of just like stopping to obsess over my macros and like start trusting my body even more because now like with her guidance and with her help I was able to begin approaching my meals with like more curiosity, like what can I add. I've heard you share this before, Chris. It's like what can I add, or what nutrients can I really gift myself today. And that was a really big mindset shift for me.
Mhm. I love that that's what you pulled out,
The
is
language.
what can I yeah, the language is what nutrients can I gift myself today? And I
Mm,
love that for your perspective, you were like, "Oh my gosh, look at all the foods I do get to eat. Look at all these new foods I get to try." And so often people get fearful because 'cause they're like, "Oh my gosh, but I really love these." But then you forget that there's thousands of other foods that you get to try. Because I know some people are like, "Oh, well, what am I gonna eat and if I can't have gluten and dairy?" Like, those are 2 foods out of thousands of options that we got out there. So I love that for you, you shifted that mindset to like, "What do I get to eat?"
And liberates the process is what it does.
Mhm.
It says, "Hey, I have 100%" again, not a word I love, but I'm just gonna use it for context. I have 100% control. And what I mean by that is I have power and I can exercise it at any point. And the decisions I make is either going to enhance my journey or it's going to alter my journey. Either way, it's a decision. And even if we're not making quote unquote the right decision because we went and had 3 coffees right in a row in the middle of a protocol, the fact is it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It means that we need to do damage control,
mm,
right? We need to say, okay, that's what it was. And you'll probably hear me many, many times just again on those calls saying, why did we have the coffees? Not in a judgment way, but what was the feelings, the thoughts? What was your sleep pattern like ahead of the time? Why did you feel you needed to do that? What was your day like that was different? These are all the questions we get to, again, liberate the process instead of saying, oh, well, I might as well go eat the donut because I already had 3 coffees. I already blew it. So it's never about blowing the system. It's really about going and saying, hey, why? Why did that happen? Because if we can't answer the whys, then we can't correct the behaviors.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Haley always asks me, like, the extra intricate questions too, and so it's like I get a Haley question, and I'm like, "Okay, today's the day. Let's do this," right? So I love it.
Don't let her fool you, Haley. She loves when people ask her those
Kinda do.
questions. So I would love to know, Haley, because we're all about transparency, right? We're never going to tell somebody, oh, you're going to have a great journey, linear A to B. There's no bumps in the road. Everything's going to go perfect. Your skin's going to clear up by X date, because those are setting unrealistic expectations for people. Because I think in our society, we're so used to, oh, you have this issue, take this pill and it'll go away in a few hours, right? Have a headache, take an Advil, it'll go away in a few hours. But when you're working from a holistic concept and you're really going and rebalancing body systems, that's not the case. So I would love to know, Haley, what were there any obstacles on your journey? Did you see flares and symptoms? Were there any challenges that arose for you?
Yes, Katie, I'm so glad you brought this up because I can sit here today and share so many wins that I've had. But it wasn't until maybe 2 to 3 weeks before my program officially ended that I really felt like, wow, I have experienced all of these wins. Like, it was a journey, and I think, it was almost a gut punch when you mentioned the healing timeline is like, you should give yourself 1 month for every year you've had symptoms. And that really just put me in my place because I was really hoping for, okay, like in 3 months, like I'm gonna have clear skin, but I had to get real with myself and understand if I've been experiencing this for more than a decade, I have to give myself at least a year to heal. And so throughout my program, I'm just so thankful for Callie. And I know you mentioned at the beginning is like I started off with the DIY program and quickly transitioned into the clear skin solutions. And a lot of the reason for that is because I really just wanted someone to like hold my hand through it all. And in the hard times, I'm so thankful I had Callie because I could just be very open and transparent with the emotions and feelings I was experiencing rather than trying to shift all of those emotions either on myself or even on my husband, who just like did his best to support, but didn't fully understand what I was going through. And so having Callie to be able to just say, hey, like this is how I'm feeling and it's really hard because I did have hard days. I had moments where I felt like this wasn't working. There was a time throughout my gut protocol that I had more flare-ups than I had ever experienced and they were itchy. They kept me up all throughout the night and I realized I was having a Herx reaction from just some of the cleanup that needed to happen to come out. And what I've appreciated so much is just having Callie remind me that things are working and to help me shift that mindset or that perspective and just give me that assurance that I am doing what I need to be doing. And there were also times where I wasn't perfect. Remember early on, like caffeine was something that was really hard for me to take out because I thought it was like I'm going to get a headache if I don't have caffeine. And I'm sure many people
Mhm.
can resonate with that, but early on I remember just feeling, "Ah, dang, I had that cup of caffeine and I wasn't supposed to." And so reaching out to Callie and letting her know just took a lot of the guilt off of it and saying, hey, like, it's not a setback. Like, it's not a setback. But now you know how it made you feel because I reflected on that and realized, yeah, the rest of the day I felt super jittery. I was more anxious. I couldn't sleep well. And it was just like really being able to reflect on what did it mean for me to make that decision and how can I make better decisions. Yes, I had ups and downs throughout the whole journey. I also had several different wins throughout the journey. Halfway through of the Clear Skin Solutions, I completed my gut protocol. So Callie had me do a 12-week gut protocol, gut microbiome protocol. And I decided at that point I was going to go back to the doctor to reassess my ultrasound because I had 3 different ultrasounds before joining this program confirming that I had 25 plus cysts on my ovaries. And I just wanted to see what it looked like at that point. And so I had an ultrasound scheduled, and the doctor came back and confirmed that there were no cysts on my ovaries. There was not one to be found. And I just left that doctor's office in tears, like the happiest tears. And even though I was still experiencing acne at that time, I knew that acne is one of the last things to really clear. But I knew things were working because I was seeing these other results, and I never thought I would hear those words that there were no cysts on my ovaries. I think it was even the week right before then, Chris, I had asked you on one of our weekly nutrition calls around PCOS, and is this something that I will always have? And no one had ever debunked that myth to me to say that PCOS was not forever. And so I just really appreciate your expertise and also giving me hope in that area, but then also the results that followed along with it.
That just brings me to tears, the fact that you went in and never thought you would hear, "Hey, Haley, there's no cysts." Like, that's so incredible because so many women don't realize that.
Katie, I didn't even believe it. I actually later on, I felt like I blacked out in a way. And so I called the doctor's office and I said, "Can I get a copy of those ultrasound results?" So they said, "Yes, you just need to come in." But I needed to see it on paper for me to confirm, like, did I actually hear what the doctor said? Because at this point in time, it just didn't seem possible. So again, thank you so much for everything that you have done for me in this past year, and just like the wealth of knowledge I've gained alone is I have no words to say.
Haley, you're just the sweetest ever. Like, I think Chris might even cry today, and I've never seen Chris tear off on a
No,
call.
I'm pretty good. I'm just letting you know. I'm pretty stone cold. No.
Yeah, she's really holding it in right now. She's like, "I won't do it."
Honestly, it's not things I haven't heard before, and that's what I mean. That's why I'm so invested into this work. I'm so invested into, the minerals, whether that's hair or not. Just the minerals don't lie. That's why I love them, right? Like, I can say all these things. I love the fact that we have opportunity, and that's what I strive. So whether I'm training a coach or talking to a student or a client, at the end of the day, I'm like, let's find your opportunities and let's do it in a way that the body can receive them so that we're not trying to push that Herx reaction, right? Coming in, doing all the things, spending 8 weeks to really calm down the body, still going and pushing gut pathogens out in a secondary now protocol after, still being able, you've nurtured yourself all to this point, having that Herx reaction. What do you think that says? Holy, that was a lot of congestion in there. Right? Because the goal is not to have, like, we should not be having Herx reactions, everyone. We should not be purging. Full on clear. We should not. The body should not do that. It does it out of urgency. It does it to say, "Ooh, there's other things." So what we do is we really educate you to say, if this is happening, here's a whole bunch of things you possibly could. Here's the timelines. And I'm pretty sure the timelines are dead on within a day or two. Right? And again, because if you had have gone outside of that and someone didn't explain that, you would have reverted. You would have stopped. You would have said, "This isn't working." Climbing the stairs isn't always fun, right? And when we have acne, it feels like we're going to like the penthouse every single day. So the other thing is, please also make sure that you're thanking yourself daily, because you used our applications and our brains. However, guess who had to do it every single day? You, right? So these are the things. So I can't wait to see the new vision board, or the new mantra, or the new words, or what you're going to go for this year, because that's it. It's, you set your goal for a year and do check-in points with yourself. How am I feeling? What does it look like? How am I doing? And everybody, watch your words, because that's something I did notice with Haley from the start of the calls to the later part of the calls is it was very much of a, what can I do for myself today? And you caught on pretty quick. I would say probably about 3 months, you transitioned your words completely.
Mhm.
And just before, I just wanna kind of finalize this thing in the mindset when there was days that they were hard. When you were like, "Oh, this isn't working. Ooh, nobody understands me. Ooh, why is my face doing this?" Right? "Oh, I should be doing more," because these are probably pretty common amongst everybody.
Mhm.
What did you do to ground yourself, to get yourself out of that?
That's such a good question. I think early on, I didn't have the tools. One of the first things I would do is actually send Callie a message because I knew she would give me the perspective that I needed. I learned to do more deep breathing. I try to get outdoors more, get more sunlight, because I actually feel like I found the transition to my mindset really happened when I was around nearing the end of my gut protocol. And I think a lot of that also has to do with, 90% of your serotonin is actually made up in your gut. And so that's like your happy hormone. And I think when I started fixing some of the gut imbalances that internally were happening, a lot of my anxiety decreased from that. So it's just interesting to see how much of an impact our gut can play in all other areas of life.
Yeah. It truly has its own ecosystem, so of course, if you take a plane and you go to Egypt, it's a different ecosystem, fair? Different language. I mean, we still all eat, we still drink, we still have the basic necessities. That never changes. So isn't that interesting? No matter where we travel, the basic necessities never change. Only the environment of which we're around it. So that's essentially your gut. So that's really cool. Again, more opportunity, more opportunity, more opportunity. So as the language started to change, probably about around the 3rd month, because I remember you hopped on for something and you were just about going in. You're pretty nervous. You had you had a reaction. There was these things, and then coming out, and more recently, like with this second HTMA, where I'm like, okay, eat, and you're like, okay, perfect. Like there was no like, what do you mean? Why panic? You're like, did you just give me a hall pass? Like I'm in, right? And one of the things you said is, oh, I didn't realize that I could have been altering the different variety again, and I could have been because we just kinda get set in the ways of certain things, and I'm like, "Go enjoy yourself." And then you start enjoying yourself, and the skin still does what? It still responds, it still says, "Oh, we can handle this. We can love life," and it wants to join in with you. So now your ecosystem becomes more of that unit. Now you're learning the language, now you're climatizing, you're getting used to different weathers, these types of things. So really everybody just think of, when you're trying to do any kind of repair on your body, think of it going traveling to a whole different place with a whole different language and a whole different even like temperature, right? You got it, your body has to climatize and we allow for that adjustment, but we forget that when we're self-healing, it's a now.
Mhm. I have one final, well, not final question, but I have a question I've been wanting to ask you, Haley, because you invested an entire year into this journey for yourself. And everybody that comes through the CSS doors, they're like, I'm going to be the person that clears my skin in 6 weeks. That's going to be me. That's me. I'm not going to need a long amount of time. So I have to know a year later, because a year can seem a little nerve wracking for some people to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me a year to clear my skin. It's going to take me a year to feel better. In the grand scheme of things, a year isn't that long in the entirety of your life in most times. But for
Mm-mm.
you, sitting where you are now, was the time investment, the financial investment, the emotional investment, the physical investment, was that all worth it sitting where you are now a year later?
Is that even a question, Katie? Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I look back and the time went by so quick actually. I think for those listening, this is something I do want to share because I talk about that healing timeline and it was again about 3 weeks before I was going to be completed with the program. My skin was still experiencing breakouts and so I was just really thinking about, okay, I have to, what does it look like to continue on with this program? Like, I can't go without Callie. I can't go without Katie, Chris. Like, I still need support. And I took a step back a few days after processing some of these thoughts and said, but what if I actually know what to do? Like, can I trust myself to graduate from this program and still maintain balance, still be able to continue the healing journey? Because I know that there's still, areas of improvement that I can work on. And I'm so glad I had that moment because I talked to Callie about it. And she said, "You have all the tools, you have the resources. It's really up to you to continue on." And so I allowed that to be just like the next steps for me of let me trust myself with all of the tools, all of the knowledge that I have now that I gained from this program and continue on this journey. And if I need to come back, I come back. And so I will say just like I, coming out of the program at this point, I just want to share some of the wins I had at the very end. Because again, like I didn't think that I was really ready. And then it was like just this shift that happened. And I think a lot of it was just like that mindset of like, I have the ability to heal. But I would say, my skin has truly been the clearest it's ever been coming out of the program. I have some scarring, but I'm so proud. If anyone is like watching the video right now, I only have tinted sunscreen on today, and I feel super confident, and my color just feels like it has a lot of vitality to it. And I haven't really been putting on makeup. I've just been doing like tinted sunscreen, very minimal, and feeling really good about myself. But not only that, just some of the other ones that I've had is that my energy is higher. I'm like working out at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and that used to be like when I would need a nap or just hit this like midday slump, but it's actually now when I have the most energy. I don't really have brain fog anymore. My cravings at night have decreased. I used to like need a bigger like bedtime snack, and now I maybe will do like a spoonful of seed butter or nut butter. I have a daily bowel movement now. Like I never thought that was possible. I just thought that this is how it always is, going every other day or every few days. But I feel like my digestion has just been top notch. I was not expecting this to be a win, but I've had hair regrowth. So I was recently at one of my hair appointments, and my hairstylist noticed like all of these baby hairs coming in at my scalp and just like congratulating me on all of the scalp coverage I've had. And that was a function of just a lot of the internal work that I've been doing. And then most importantly, coming out of this program as well, Katie and Chris, like I'm not on any prescriptions. I'm completely off on all of my hormonal prescriptions that I was on coming in. And I really only have a couple of supplements at this point to maintain a lot of what I did, all of the groundwork that I did over the last several months. So maybe I went a little sideways from your question, Katie, but I did want to make sure I just shared some of the wins that I had that weren't as obvious early on or even in the middle towards the end of the program. But once I did complete the program, I took a step back and realized like this was absolutely so worth it. And I'm so thankful that I invested in myself and took a chance on myself this past year.
This was so incredible to listen to all those wins because we come in so focused on the skin. It's almost like we have horse blinders
Mm.
on, and we almost sometimes can't see past those horse blinders to be like, "Oh my gosh, I am feeling better. I have more energy. I'm sleeping better. My digestion's better. I'm having hair growth." Like, you almost don't want to take acknowledge of those wins because you're so focused on the skin. But for you to like finish the program and take a step back and be like, "Oh my gosh, look at all the ways that my body is feeling better." That truly shows just the hard work that you put in for yourself. And we're both just so, our whole team is so proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. So, Haley, for someone sitting in your position right now in January, wanting to be where you are next year, what's that final piece of advice that you want to give to them?
There's so many things I would want to share. I think a couple come to mind. So, one, I think this process as a whole has just taught me how to care for myself in a way I never had before. And so, if I could share any message with anyone struggling right now, because I know there's several out there silently struggling, and that was me as well. but you don't have to fight your body to heal. I think healing taught me to stop like chasing that control and really start choosing calmness. And you just have to be willing to listen to it. And I think if there's anything I want anyone listening to know is that your body isn't broken. Healing is possible, and just don't give up.
Mm.
Because I had
I love
felt so hopeless, and I'm just so thankful that I do now get to share this story and help other women see that, like, healing is truly possible.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing your story and coming in here today because it really does make a difference for the women suffering silently that are, like you listening to the podcast and just hearing themselves in your voice. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been so fun, and again, there's just, like, a wealth of knowledge and support here at the Clear Skin Solutions, and so I'm just so thankful and grateful, and rooting for you all on your own acne healing journey.
Yay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much to Haley and for all of you listening as we enter into the year of 2026. As always, you have any questions, follow up, shoot me a DM. Not Chris. She doesn't answer them. I do. So send me the questions and we'll see you next week on another episode of Keep It Clear.